A Challenger 604 aircraft is being prepared for a transatlantic flight to the United Kingdom. The flight crew consists of a 51-year-old captain and a 58-year-old co-pilot. An additional company pilot, not qualified on the Challenger 604 and not forming part of the flight crew, is on board as an observer for transatlantic experience. The aircraft and crew take off at 10:15 for a flight to Fort Myers Airport in Florida to pick up a passenger. The aircraft takes off again 25 minutes later for a flight to West Palm Beach Airport to pick up a second passenger. The aircraft lands at West Palm Beach Airport at 12:30 and finally departs for the flight to the UK at 12:59. The captain has been working for EPS Air Service, the plane's operator, since 1968 and is the current director of operations. He has completed his aircraft rating on the Challenger 604 series aircraft in 1999 and is one of 4 company pilots to fly this aircraft. Designated as the pilot in command by the company for this flight, he would normally have occupied the left cockpit seat. The flight operation manual, however, permits a qualified second in command to occupy this seat at the captain's discretion. The captain thus allowed the co-pilot, which will be the pilot flying the aircraft, to sit in the left seat. After an uneventful flight, November 90 Alpha Golf arrives at Birmingham Airport at 20:39. On arrival, the captain decides that the refueling will be done the following morning, in time for the planned departure of the flight back to the USA. The aircraft is parked on the western apron while at Birmingham. There is no precipitation while the aircraft is on the ground. Overnight, the air temperature remains below zero, with a minimum temperature of -9 degrees Celsius. Initially, the sky is clear, with increasing but variable cloud cover after midnight. After landing the aircraft in Birmingham, the flight crew heads to a nearby hotel to get some rest. Records indicate that they check in at approximately 21:15 and have a meal and some alcohol between 21:44 and 23:15. It is estimated that each man consumes some 5 units of alcohol before retiring to bed at approximately 23:30. The next morning, after a rest period greater than that required by the relevant regulations, the pilots return to duty for a planned flight back to the USA, with sufficient time to complete the necessary pre-flight preparations. The handling pilot and the observer arrive at the aircraft together at approximately 10:40. Evidence from the dispatchers indicate that the APU is started about 10 minutes later. The APU is a small gas turbine power plant installed in the rear equipment bay, capable of supplying aircraft electrical and air conditioning systems when main engines are not operating. The exhaust gas from the APU is ducted to an overboard pour on the right side of the rear fuselage. This will play a huge role in the subsequent events. The captain arrives at the aircraft 20 minutes after the co-pilot at 11 AM. At different times, each of the 2 crew members is seen to carry out an independent external inspection of the aircraft. Aircraft refueling commences at about 11:05 and the aircraft fuel tanks are reported full at about 11:40. Then, following the arrival of the 2 passengers, the aircraft doors are closed. The passengers are the same as on the arrival flight. During this time, various witnesses see ice on the wing surfaces of the aircraft. The danger of flying an aircraft with ice on its wings is really high. Whether you're flying a Cessna or an Airbus A380, icing is a hazard for every pilot. It's one of the top safety-related concerns of the FAA, and it led to hundreds of aviation accidents. One of the main dangers of having ice on your wings is that you'll stall at a lower angle of attack and at a higher than normal indicated airspeed. Other aircraft have been de-iced during the morning, with associated reports of severe to moderate ice accumulation. Evidence from the cockpit voice recorder indicates that the operating pilots discussed the presence of frost on the leading edge prior to engine start. However, neither requests de-icing, and the aircraft is not de-iced. Following a clearance from air traffic control, the engines are started at 11:56, and the aircraft is cleared to taxi to the runway 5 minutes later. All radio calls during the flight are made by the captain, seated in the right cockpit seat. During taxi, the crew completes their normal before takeoff checks. These include confirmation that the control checks have been completed and that anti-ice might be required immediately after takeoff. Flap 20 is selected for takeoff, and the following speeds are calculated and briefed by the pilots. By 12:06, the aircraft is cleared to line up on runway 15, and 1 minute later, the aircraft is cleared for takeoff with a surface wind of 140 degrees at 8 knots. The co-pilot in the left seat is handling the controls. Takeoff appears normal up to liftoff. Rotation is started at about 146 knots, with the elevator position being increased to 8 degrees in the aircraft nose-up position, resulting in an initial pitch rate of around 4 degrees per second. Liftoff occurs 2 seconds later at about 153 knots, with a pitch attitude of about 8 degrees nose up. Immediately after liftoff, the aircraft starts to bank to the left. The rate of bank increases rapidly, and 2 seconds after liftoff, the bank angle reaches 50 degrees. At this point, the aircraft heading diverges about 10 degrees to the left. Opposite aileron, followed closely by right rudder, is applied as the aircraft starts banking. Full right aileron and full right rudder are applied within 1 second and are maintained until the end. As the bank angle continues to increase, progressively more aircraft nose-up elevator is applied. The stick shaker, a mechanical device designed to rapidly vibrate the control yoke, warning the flight crew that an imminent aerodynamic stall has been detected, then begins to sound. The pilot failed to maintain control, and the aircraft strikes the ground, inverted adjacent to the runway. Most of the possible reasons for the rapid uncontrollable roll that occurred on liftoff and led to the accident, such as power plant malfunction, fuel imbalance, flight control system malfunction, structural failure, and more, could be dismissed. Assessment of the FTR data showed that although the aircraft's pitch response to the increasing aircraft nose-up elevator deflection applied after initial rotation was normal, the vertical load factor achieved was substantially below the expected value. This suggested that the horizontal stabilizer and elevators were operating normally, but that there was a substantial deficit in wing lift. Such a situation could only have been the result of abnormal airflow over at least part of the wing, and was fully consistent with the effects of surface roughness associated with frost contamination. The evidence suggested that the frost contamination was probably present on the aircraft during the takeoff. Aerodynamic studies show that a low level of roughness associated with frost could generate sufficient flow disturbance to cause an aerodynamic stall of the wing at an angle of attack that was substantially below the normal value. Information also suggested that a rapid roll at the stall, uncontrollable by ailerons, would be probable, irrespective of the level of span-wise asymmetry of any contamination present. The overall evidence, therefore, indicated that the accident had resulted from a stall of the left wing caused by the effects of frost contamination. Melting or modification of the frost on the right wing by heat from the APU exhaust gas may have caused an asymmetry, particularly involving the outboard parts of the wings, that accentuated the tendency for the left wing to stall force. Now that we know why the left wing stalled after takeoff, we need to take a look at why the flight crew failed to de-ice the aircraft prior to the departure. The two pilots were seen to do independent external inspections of the aircraft and should have been aware of the frost on the surfaces of the wings. In fact, a witness confirmed the existence of frost on the left wing during the time of the second inspection by the captain. Also, the captain was clearly aware of the contamination as he subsequently commented on the frost to the handling pilot. Then why the crew members did not arrange for the aircraft to be de-iced? Probably because they believed that the degree of frost contamination they observed was acceptable and would not have a significant effect on the aircraft's aerodynamic performance. The pilots also probably believed that the prevailing atmospheric conditions would melt the frost contamination before takeoff. Or maybe they just forgot that the frost contamination was present after their pre-flight preparations. The available evidence did not allow any firm conclusions to be reached as to the likely reasons for the failure to de-ice. Also, investigators consider that the use of a non-prescription drug may have impaired the judgment and concentration of both pilots. In fact, toxicological examination revealed 0.12 mcgs per milliliter of diphenhydramine in the captain. Diphenhydramine was also detected in samples from the handling pilot at a level of 0.04 mcgs per milliliter. Diphenhydramine is a sedative antihistamine used in a number of cough and decongestant preparations on sale to the public. It is also used in a number of products used to aid sleep. All preparation containing diphenhydramine carry this warning label. In addition to drowsiness, this drug may also cause blurred vision, dizziness, or nausea. Why both men took diphenhydramine is open to speculation. It is possible that the co-pilot had a cold or similar upper respiratory tract infection and was taking diphenhydramine. Had the captain developed a similar cold, the handling pilot may have shared his medication with him. It is equally possible that both men had taken this drug to aid sleep and prevent jet lag. In fact, both pilots had disturbed and inadequate sleep for the 2 nights preceding the accident, and it was possible that they were suffering from circadian dysrhythmia. However, there is no way of knowing why they took this medication. Of particular relevance to the accident, various observations have been made demonstrating that diphenhydramine impairs short-term memory and attention. It is well known that all the effects of diphenhydramine are potentiated by alcohol, which the crew consumed the night prior at their hotel. To conclude, it is possible that tiredness, possible jet lag, and diphenhydramine all combined to impair the ability of the pilots to deal with the situation with which they were faced.